Greetings and welcome back to the Galley of the Sun. Today, yet another episode in our wide world of food. So, last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I got it in my head that I hadn't done Chile Rellenos yet, and I needed to do them. So I did my research, watched a bunch of different videos, read a bunch of different recipes, and thought I came up with the one. Well, I made those, and though they were good, they just weren't really up to the Galley of the Sun standards. And then it hit me. I'm trying to make something traditionally Mexican. Why have I not looked at how Rick Bayless does it? If you're not familiar with Rick Bayless, he is a famous chef, lives up in Chicago most of the time, but spends a lot of time in Mexico and is an absolute Mexican food genius. Now, in between that time that I looked at his method, and now, we ate at a local restaurant here called Twisted Italian. And on their menu are Italian Rellenos. So basically an Italian type stuffing. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a lot of Rick Bayless's methods and combine them with what they do at the Twisted Italian restaurant here in Peoria, Arizona. And I'm going to make something incredible. We're going to make Italian Rellenos. So, first thing we need to do is get the skin blistered. Now, if you've watched all of our videos, you've seen many episodes where I did this with hatch green chilies most of the time. Sometimes I did it with the broiler, sometimes I did it with a blowtorch. We're going to do a different method today. So the method we're going to use today is we're going to use the oil that we're going to end up frying these battered peppers in once we get to the last step. I think that's better this time than the blowtorch method because we want those peppers softened up a little bit. We're going to make a small slit in the side of them and get all the innards out. So I really need to preserve the pepper. So if it's a little softer, it's going to be more forgiving for me. Here in my skillet, I have some vegetable oil heated up to about 360, 370 degrees. And we're going to take our peppers, 2 at a time, and just put them in that oil. That's going to get that skin all blistered up for us. We're going to do about 2 minutes per side. As those are cooking away, I absolutely love to do fusion food, taking 2 different cultures and mixing them together. What is your favorite fusion food? Hey, put that down in the comments. Maybe we'll give it a try. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes. We're going to get those flipped over, and look how evenly blistered those are on the first side. So I'm going to let these go for about 2 minutes on this side. I'm going to put them on this rack just for a few minutes to cool down a little bit. Then they're going into a Ziploc bag, which I'm going to seal, and they're going to set in there for about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's going to help separate the skin from the meat of the pepper. So I've got 8 peppers to do. You don't need to see all that. We'll see you for the next step. Something I forgot to mention in the very beginning, when you go to make this dish, you need to be very careful when you're picking out your poblanos. You'll see every one of mine are very straight. There's no big curves in it. That's going to help us out in the next steps here. And also they're sort of flat. That'll help us too. So be very careful when you pick out your poblanos. Okay, I've got all the peppers blistered. They're sitting in their Ziploc bags, sweating it out. Now we're going to get to work on the innards. There are a lot of steps to this recipe, but either A, if you love the people you're cooking for, or B, you have a huge ego and love to hear people tell you how great you are, this is the recipe for you. It is worth the time. I have my skillet over here, going to get that onto some medium heat. And I'm going to take a pound of Italian sausage. Now, all the ingredients and their amounts are down below in the description. I'm cooking for quite a few people today, so I'm doing 8 of these. The recipe's very easy to cut that in half if you're feeding a more reasonable group. So we're going to use our homemade Italian sausage. Made it in an earlier video. Make sure you check that out. We're going to get this browned up. Now, the order in which you do this, these next few steps, do matter. You veteran cooks out there, you totally understand where I'm going with this. You more novice ones out there, and I know I got plenty of fans, single Navy sailors and others that don't cook a whole lot but are trying to expand their repertoire, which is French for field of expertise. As you're cooking this, do your best to break it down into as small pieces as possible. It's been a while, so a shout out to our favorite vegetarian out there, Stefan. So if you omit this part, all the rest of this, and do all the other steps, you will come up with a very fantastic vegetarian meal, my friend. Give it a try. And then after you give it a try, put down in the comments how it went. All right, all the pink is gone, so I'm going to take a spoon with a bunch of holes in it, and we're going to set this meat aside, put it in this bowl here, and let it cool as we take care of the rest of the innards. Now what we've done here is we're now left with a bunch of fantastic rendered pork fat with that Italian sausage seasoning in it. So now we're going to add our onions and peppers, and we're going to cook those until they're soft. We're going to let those go 3 or 4 minutes before we do the next step. All right, those onions and peppers have been cooking for about 3 or 4 minutes, and the onions are about 62% through their translucification. Look that word up. So at this point, I'm going to add in some sliced baby bella mushrooms. Don't get those white button ones. They don't have much taste. Baby bellas, oh yeah, those are good. All right, those mushrooms are softening up. Now we're going to add a good amount of garlic. And we're going to continue cooking for another 30 to 45 seconds while stirring this. All right, our vegetables are done. Now they go into the pot with the Italian sausage to cool. And you'll see there's not a whole lot of liquid there. Sam the cooking guy will tell you fat is flavor. So that rendered fat from that sausage soaked up by those vegetables and all nestled great into our ingredients. This is going to be amazing. All right, so now we're going to set aside our Italian sausage, onions, peppers, mushroom, garlic mixture aside and work on the next step. Now, when I was in the Navy, I was a Navy nuke, and the stereotype of Navy nukes is that they overthink things, but really, doing it in this order is the most time efficient way. As we were cooking this, our peppers were steaming. As we skin our peppers, this is going to be cooling, so everything's going to come together beautifully. Nothing could possibly go wrong. So let's start that next step. So I'm going to grab the peppers from the first batches I did, pull them out, and now we're going to get that tougher outer edge, that outer layer of skin off of them. Best way to do this is take a knife and just scrape it along. I've found what also helps is having a bowl of water to rinse your knife off and to have some paper towels ready, because after a while you're going to have that skin all over the place on your fingers and everything. You'll be putting it back on the pepper, driving yourself crazy. So yeah, water, paper towels, knife, make it happen. And if you get lucky, it'll come off in relatively decent sized pieces like that. Now, you don't have to get 100% of it off, okay? But just get as much as you can for what your time and patience allows. You'll see a distinct color difference once you get that skin back. The pepper becomes a lot more lighter shade of green. All right, so I'm gonna get these peppers skinned, and then we'll see you for the next step. All right, so we got the skins off of all of them, and we have the innards out of most of them too, but I want to show you how to do that. So especially if you get that flat pepper like I talked about, along the thin side, cut a very straight slit all the way down the pepper. Then open your pepper up and remove all the seeds, and if you're worried about heat, remove the membranes too. Now, especially if your poblano has some red in it, it's going to have some heat. So to cut that down, removing those membranes is going to help you out a lot. But pull out the seeds just like that. Another easy way is to do this at the kitchen sink under running water. And that's what I'm going to do with these last two. We'll catch you with the next step after that. All right, now we got to finish our filling. So what I have here, got from the deli, is a half-pound block of provolone cheese. I'm going to take a box grater and we're going to grate that. All right, once we got that done with the provolone, take it and dump it in your bowl with your vegetables and your Italian sausage. And then we're going to do the same with some fresh mozzarella. You can use a food processor if you wish. This is therapeutic to me. Okay, let's learn a lesson. So, if you're not specific and your wife gets sliced mozzarella, it's not going to work with the box grater. So, we're just going to take a knife and cut it into very small pieces and chuck that in there. All right, all that goes together in the bowl. Then we're going to mix all that together. Then we're going to start stuffing our Chile Rellenos. Oh, but wait, there's more. First, add a tablespoon of fresh, finely diced basil and fresh, finely diced oregano. Only the best here at the Galley of the Sun. Get that all mixed together. Make sure we break up that mozzarella as best we can. And you know what? Because we have it, I'm going to add about a quarter cup of our magic cheese to that. It is a mixture of Parmesan, Asiago, Romano, and Mistra. You can use just Parmesan if that's what you got. All right, there's the beautiful innards for our peppers. Let's get them stuffed. Got a baking rack here, parchment paper. Now we're going to stuff our peppers. Not going to go too crazy, but not going to go skimpy. My calculations were off somewhere. This is going to stuff a lot more than 8 peppers. Okay, another trick you want to do is once you got them stuffed, sort of squash them, put them down flat. That's going to help you with later steps. All the peppers are stuffed. Last thing to do is to sort of sew these up. Now, you can use toothpicks. You can use like a skewer to do it. I have these metal trussing pins. So we're just going to go along the side here and sort of alternate in, out, and get this all sewn together. So that way we only have one thing we need to pull out of it before we start chomping on it. There we go. I'm going to push it down, flatten it out. Now I'm going to do that to the rest of them. Then these are going to go into the freezer for about an hour as we work on our sauce. So we'll see you then. All right, last couple steps. Now we need to make the sauce. So we're going to take an entire 28-ounce can of peeled San Marzano tomatoes, chuck those into our blender. To that we're going to add 3 to 5 cloves of garlic, minced, though it's going into Vitamix, so it really doesn't matter. They could be whole. Tablespoon of fresh oregano, tablespoon of fresh basil, a pinch of red pepper flakes. Now, normally red pepper flakes I'll put in my hand and I'll squash them to release their oils. They'll get released in the Vitamix. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of concentrated tomato paste, teaspoon of sugar, teaspoon of salt. And we're going to let her rip. If you've watched all of our videos, this is the same constituents as our New York style pizza sauce, except I'm not going to let it simmer for a long time this time, trying to thicken it up. All I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to a saucepan with a quarter cup of olive oil and then let it simmer. I just need it warm. That's going to go on the bottom of our plate under our gorgeous Relleno. See you then for the next step. Now we got to do the last step, which is putting together the super awesome delicate batter that we're going to have. So what I need is 8 eggs, chicken seeds, and I need them separated between the yolk and the white. So that's what I'm going to get done now. So the best way to do this is crack your egg and then gently let that yolk go into your hand and let the white run between your fingers and move on to the next one. Now, you want to be careful. If you get any yolk at all in your white, this is not going to set up like you want to. So you have to make sure you get every bit of that out, or you start over if you have a butt ton of eggs. All right, so we got our 8 eggs separated. Now they're going to go into the mixer bowl. And we're going to whip those until we have stiff peaks. Oh, stiff ones. To help that along, we're going to throw in about a tablespoon of salt. Right, we're there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold in our egg yolks and about 3 tablespoons of flour. You can see we have this incredibly delicate, light, fluffy batter. All right, time to bring the oil back to 350 to 370 degrees. Better to be on the high side because when we put our frozen chili rellenos in there, it's going to lower the temperature. So I'm using a smaller skillet. I'm only going to do one at a time to minimize that effect, but use a bigger skillet, you can do two. All right, got our chilies in from the freezer. So now as soon as our oil comes up to temp, we're in the cooking business. All right, oil's up to temp, so we're going to take our first chili relleno. We're going to dredge it in some flour to give that beautiful, delicate batter something to stick to. Using that stem as a handle. Make sure we get this fully covered. All right, now we're going to get it coated by just dipping it into our batter. Move it around, get all sides all good and coated. Here we go. Now right into the oil. Gently. Okay, we're going to let that cook on either side for 4 minutes. To help set the batter on the top, we're going to gently spoon some of that oil on top of it as it's cooking. Very gently, not to disturb that incredible batter. Because just like the director, it's delicate. And you only have to do this for the first minute or so just to get it set up. In fact, that there is probably enough. All right, here's the most delicate and dangerous part of this. I'm going to use 2 spatulas and gently flip this over, not to disturb that batter, to keep it all beautiful. All right, I gave it a little tiny puncture right there, but overall we did pretty good. Before the director renders judgment, if you like what you saw today, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode. Hey, we love comments. There's a section for that. Put something down there. All right, well, you look at that. Now we just need to get the director out here to judge us. All right, moment of truth. Director says...
Very good. Very good.
Fantastic. All right, there you have it. Director don't lie. She tells me crap all the time, and I gotta believe it. Okay, hey, thank you so much for joining us today, and until we see you next time, fair winds and following seas.